We have the Cottage and Lakefront Living show is coming up next weekend. We're going to be there, going to be talking. But if you don't have tickets, or if you want to have some idea what I'm going to talk about, well, yeah, you lucked out, right? Now you're going to find out. Uh, so you don't have to go and look at all the dock systems and all the gardening. And have you ever been to that thing, Lakefront Living Show? It's really cool. It really is. And cottage culture, I got to tell you, cottage culture is huge. And we call them cottages. And a buddy of mine, I'm describing this, and he goes, cottages. Ugh. Grandmas have cottages. And who else has cottages? I'm like, hey, around here, everyone's got cottages. Oh, well, in Pennsylvania, apparently they call them cabins. So even if it's on a lake, they call it a cabin. It's like, yeah, all right. Well, it's good to have a cabin, but not a cottage. Okay, whatever. Um, so if you're talking to your friends from Pennsylvania and you're describing your cottage, don't call it a cottage, call it a cabin. Otherwise, you will lose their respect. That's what I discovered. So here's the deal with cottages. Cottages have a very long history in West Michigan. It's very ingrained, I feel, in the sort of American psyche, right? The idea to get out of town, get someplace different, all the rest of it. If you look at the original plat maps of the lakes that are right outside the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan, for example, and this is true in other places as well. I just done more study in around Grand Rapids. But you have companies that were divvying up, they were selling like 20-foot lots. Now, around the lakes themselves, they were 40-foot lots, okay, 40 feet, and they were deeper. But the idea is you had a lot that was 40 feet wide because that was enough for for you to put your cottage on there. Okay, that was enough because it was just a way to get out of town on the weekend. But it went smaller than that. They were selling like a place to pitch it. You could get a 10-foot lot, 10 by 20-foot lot for you to pitch your tent. That's how strong the drive is, right? To get the hell out of Dodge. And you think, you think back, well, people used to be all segregated and racist and everything else. Oh, and of course now we're worse than ever. Well, look, back in the day, it wasn't limited to any particular ethnic group who wanted to get out of Dodge. Okay. But back in the day, we were segregated by religion. So there were subdivisions around lakes that Jewish people could not buy the properties, or black people could not buy the properties. And so the response of their response to that was to do their own. So if you go straight north, right up Lake Michigan, around in Idlewild, now it's a National Historic Area, and it was a black-owned, African-American owned, whatever the right word is these days. I apologize for not knowing exactly what it is, but it keeps changing on me. Sorry. Anyway, it was just for African Americans. It was just for black people, and there's all kinds of stories. The history is very rich. It's very interesting history if you want to look at it. But it underlines. I mean, the point is, yeah, segregation is bad. I get it. I'm glad we don't have it anymore. Good. But the point is that this urge to get out of town, to get to a place near a lake, is not limited to anybody. Everybody wanted to do that. Okay. And yeah, we were bad to each other. I get that. Okay. Well, it ain't that way anymore. So let's move on. But that urge, I think, is very powerful. Let's get out of the city. Let's reconnect a little bit. Let's relax. Let's look at a body of water. People like to look at water for some. I don't even know what the reason is. Why is it you like to look at water? I don't know. Even if you go to swimming, don't go swimming. You like to look at it. Okay, that's just the way it is. And this whole cottage thing, there is a life cycle to cottages. So even people of fairly limited means, right? You don't have to be rich. At least you didn't used to have to be rich to have a cottage, although that's changing. So an awful lot of folks were buying these. It was working class people were buying the 40-foot lots, right? Who were buying the campsites and all the rest of it, so they could get out of Dodge, so they could get out of town and actually have, a little respite from the city. Okay, and as my whole point there was it's universal. Everybody wants to do that. Okay. So now we got the Lakefront Living Show coming up. Great. So it's more about, well, how do we do that? And nowadays, we're not in a situation where, like back in the 60s, okay, you could buy a lot on Lake Michigan, because I got clients who've done this, for $16,000. That was on Lake Michigan. Okay. And you could put up a shack, and that's all it was. That's what it was, a little cozy country kitchen there. How many lakes around here? They got the single wides on them. They got the little, what do you call, the cement block? It's not cement block. The concrete block construction, you know what I mean? Very modest, but still it's your place on the lake, right? And those used to be extremely, extremely affordable, and they're not so affordable anymore. And so now, to my way of thinking, the question is, how do we preserve that for the next generation? So here's the life cycle of trust. Here's the life cycle of cottages. All right. This is how it works. When the kids are little, right? When the kids are little, the cottage is magic, right? It's, can't wait to get to the lake. It's so wonderful, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. Little kids love it. My French grandmother, not my Irish one, my French one, she had a cottage on a lake 40 minutes away. We would go there. We'd go fishing on the weekends. Couldn't wait to go to Keach Pond. This was in Chepachet, Rhode Island. Couldn't wait to go to Keach. We went swimming there. We fishing there, the whole 9 yards. Woods to hike through, camping, the whole 9 yards. Wonderful. Couldn't wait. But when you're a teenager, it's like, oh, do we have to go there? It smells funny. Oh, grandma's going to pinch my cheek. The teenagers don't like to go. The young kids love it. But as the kids get older, not so cool. You got to force them to go. They're not so into it. Then, as they go to college, young adult, and all the rest, they don't have time to go to the cottage. And if you give them a share of the cottage, it's more important for them to buy a car or a house or down payment or something. They'll find some reason to sell their share of the cottage, right? Because they got these other expenses. They're overwhelmed. But then those people, all right, so little kid love it, teenager too cool, right? Don't want to go. Then as a young adult, starting your life, whatever, you've got all these other expenses that seem they're more urgent, but they're not more important, I would say. And then you get to the phase where you regret having sold grandma's cottage. Okay? Because now you got kids of your own and you got to rent. Have you looked at what it costs to rent a cottage? Oh my God, it's unbelievable. All right? You might as well buy one. Oh, except you can't buy one because they've all been bought. Right? And by the way, and this is my thingy, we're selling them. All right? You got two problems. Number one, you're selling them because grandma's in the nursing home, and that's the first thing that's going to go. They won't let you keep that. You got to sell it. All right? You got to sell the cottage. And if you live on a lake, every summer, every year, there are cottages that come up because Ms. McGillicuddy couldn't stay there anymore. And that's why they got sold. It's like farms. They get carved up and sold off to pay the nursing home bill. But let's say you made it past that. Let's say you made it past that. Right? We didn't have to sell the cottage or the farm to pay the nursing home bill. It's still around, all right, in the family. When we get back, I'll tell you what happens next. So remember, here's the life cycle of cottages. There is a life cycle to them. You start off, you got the little kids love it. Everybody loves it. That's great. They get to be teenagers. They don't want to go there anymore. It's a hassle. It smells funny. Grandma's weird, blah, blah. Okay. Young adult, they rather not have it. They've got other needs. They need the money. They're going to sell their interest if they have an interest. It's no big deal to them. And then comes the nostalgic regrets. Oh, whatever happened to the camp? Whatever happened to the cottage? Whatever happened, it's gone now. That's the deal. We're going to tell you how to fix that when we get back.